Hello again. It's now time to talk about the daily scrum or the daily stand-up. Uh, One thing I want to note, this little note I have here, that this is really I actually think this is the best tool to add to any project using any process that you're doing. Holding these short daily meetings can really add a lot to a team's sense of keeping everyone going, being in touch. Some people might say, oh, the fact that you're having to do these shows that you don't have a good plan. I think there's a great psychological part to this meeting. I think it's really great to bring the team together. It gets everyone on the same page, and it really has a sense of keeping momentum going. I think if there's one thing that you add to any project if you need to get that project, you're having problems, be sure that you're meeting daily and you're doing your daily stand-up. And so daily stand-up, call it a daily scrum if you're in a scrum process, but let's talk about this. So in particular, 342, some details here for you. We hold them Monday, Wednesday, Friday, okay? And they're at 10:30 a.m. Now, I know some people, they might have other issues that preclude this being a time that works well for them. If the team wants another time, they can contact me via email. Include everyone on that email. I want to see everyone on the team basically asking for this other time, and we can have a talk about it. I expect the vast majority of teams to be doing the 10:30 a.m. time. That's a time that we have marked off on your schedules for lab. And the idea is that at 10:30, you start your stand-ups on the mark. You get going, you do them, and you're going to finish them in 10 to 15 minutes, okay? That's the key core part of your stand-up. Now, that said, you're like, well, what am I going to do with the remaining time for lab that day? Well, one thing is you'll notice from the schedule, there are some days where we do sprint planning, for example, and we use both the lecture slot and the lab slot. And so we move around some of the lab. In total, you'll get plenty of lab. You'll get at least 3 hours of lab a week. So that's one way that happens. Another thing is student teams, what I have found is they hold their stand-ups, and then a lot of teams realize they still need to do, as expected, lots of design work. Okay, they need to be talking a lot about how is the product working? How are we going to do that? And you might have a couple people meeting and trying to figure things out. And that usually is how the teams, I've seen them use the remainder of the time. So they hold the stand-up, and then they move on to a lot of other teamwork that they need to do, that it's really convenient that they know that they all have this time free and available to do that work. All right, and I highly encourage you to use it that way. All right, so back to the stand-up. It's called a stand-up because the idea is you'll stand unless you're physically unable. Now, if you're working remotely, I suppose you could angle your camera and stand up, but that would actually make it really hard for you to use computer-based tools for managing the Scrum board, task board, whatever we're doing. So that's probably actually a no-go. This is much more an in-person thing to be standing up. The idea behind the stand-up is to really get people to physically attune to the idea that it's supposed to be a short meeting. Otherwise, people can be really inclined to just want to go and talk on and on and on and want to do all this stuff. No, we want to tackle the core part of the meeting and all that extra stuff that happens after the meeting. That way we don't hold every single person hostage to one person's problem or a sub part of the team's design discussion that they want to hold. A lot of people have other things to do, and they need to be able to know that these meetings, do not hold them excessively day after day and eat up all this time, because we want people to be participating freely in this. I mean, they're required to participate in it, but you want that sense of, I know I don't like meetings, I don't like to do status type things, but you know what? It doesn't take long. I can see its purpose, and then I can get back to work. I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind, which is one of the good reasons for using the stand-up format. You always hold them the same time, the same location. If you're in a physical building, if you're doing it remotely, it's going to be the same link or the same mechanism to start them up each and every day. Again, we're running them Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Part of that's just scheduling. Part of that also is the nature of students, that sometimes it's not really necessary to always show up every single day. You guys are busy, you're involved with lots of other stuff. This is one of the reasons why I say that while we have a 2-week sprint, it's really more like a 1-week sprint. It's hard to have focused, non-stop, hardcore attention to things, and so the Monday, Wednesday, Friday I find is an appropriate meeting schedule for students. But you are welcome to do it every day, okay? Certainly, once you do only meet Monday, Wednesday, Friday, people should always be having something new that they've gotten done. You shouldn't go from one meeting to the next with, I was too busy, I didn't get anything done. You really should, in that span of time, have done something that you can be able to talk about and report. You hold them in front of your Scrum board. One of the big points about here, we have 3 goals for this meeting, is to update the status of the task board. If you're not using a daily stand-up, what ends up happening is you end up with some sort of project management need, basically for a project manager to go around on a frequent basis and ask everyone, okay, what's your status of this, and what's your status of that, and what do you think this is? And it's done in a piecemeal fashion. This is no fun. What we want is a really fast mechanism to be updating the status of the project. And by running it in this short meeting, we're able to do that. And we'll go over what the task board looks like in a second. We plan daily. The idea is things might have happened, things might have come up the other day. We're going to be making what our new plan is. Now, we're not going to change the goal for the sprint. We're not going to change the sprint backlog. Those things are fixed for the sprint. But what we are going to be doing is figuring out, well, who's working on what? And do we need to add new tasks? Do we need to remove tasks? What do we understand is right now, what are we doing? This is a plan adjustment on a daily basis. We don't want things to go far off track. We don't want to find out. I mean, it's only a 2-week sprint. We don't want to find out a week into it that someone tells us, I haven't been able to do anything because I've been waiting for Bob. And that's like, no, we need to know the moment you say, I'm not hearing from Bob. I'm not hearing from Bob. Well, let's go fix that problem. We do not want these downtimes and these blockages. And that's part of this thing here, is to identify issues. And again, we keep these meetings short, and so we say we're going to take that issue offline, which basically means good, that's great. Usually the team then identifies, well, these people are going to meet and talk and figure out how to solve that problem. With a Scrum Master, the Scrum Master would often be involved in being able to help to remove blockages. You could envision things where it's like, we need more feedback from the client. And if you had a product owner, that would be a product owner who could be like, okay, I'll give you what you need to know, or I'll go get it from our customers. All right, so let's talk about the details of running this meeting, because we know what the goals are, and we're going to be updating this Scrum board. And I will say, if you're not bringing all these software developers together to update the status, you're going to fail to get your status. That is one of the big problems. Software developers don't like to give status and update things. Even just emailing them, you're probably not even going to get an answer. And you go sit beside them, and they're going to go, and they're not going to give you status. You come to this meeting, we work as a group, we've got group motivation. It gets it done, it gets it covered. It's really nice. All right, so what we do to run the meeting is we discuss each person. So we're going to discuss the progress and the blocking issues. All right, I already said those as goals. The way we do this is, yes, so the little algorithm is each person takes a turn and they say, you know, what did they get done since the last meeting? Oh, since their last stand-up. I call them stand-ups always rather than daily scrums because that's what I was used to in industry. All right, what are you going to do next? So what's your plan to do next? All right, and if you've got something done and now you need more work, that means you are going to take this moment to self-assign yourself more work. Okay? It's not, oh, someone tell me what to do or boss tell me what to do. There is no boss. You are self-assigning yourself the next task, and you will be committing to getting that task done. This is a really important thing mentally, by the way. If we don't tell people what to do, that creates a mental friction. We want people to self-assign and thus also commit to that work. It changes the mentality, and long term, it leads to much healthier behavior. All right, and then are there any roadblocks, any open issues that you know about that need to be talked about or need to be resolved? If so, this is where we deal with it. So one of the things we run into problem, whether we have a Scrum Master or not, we see this happen time and time again, which is someone starts to feel like they don't like silence, and so they step into the fray, and they go and they're like, they start calling on people. Give me your status. Give me your status. Give me your status. This is not about give me your status. This is about holding a meeting where people come and talk about and show, I got this done, and they self-assign themselves more work and they cover any of these things. This is not about a manager or a Scrum Master going around and asking people to give status, okay? So do not call on people. You will be violating the ethos. And so what we want is we want each person to speak up. Now, again, as I said, some people have a real issue with, well, wait a minute, aren't we going to have conflicts of talking and stuff? Not really. In person, it's easy to make the eye contact and go, okay, I'll go next. And you go next. And eventually, by the way, there'll only be one person left. And that's pretty obvious who needs to talk then. So remotely, I don't know. Someone could, if you felt like it was a problem, being able to just speak up, you could. I think the best. I'm not going to say this idea of like coming up with lists and orders for people to go around. Again, that would be calling on people. I think, look, if two people talk at once, well, just one say, oh no, you can go ahead. All right, fine. It's going to be okay. But we don't want to be turning this into a task meeting that's someone's running. It's self-organized. And I think the biggest issue with calling on people is that it also leads down the path of removing from the self-assignment, which is what we don't want to do. So we keep away from that. So what do these Scrum boards or task boards look like? There's all sorts of variants. I'm seeing online, people are calling them Kanban boards in places. But we'll go over Kanban later in the course. Kanban boards are very similar, but they are different. So these really are the standard for the Scrum boards. And if you want to, you could think of that. Usually you're not going to see it in a lot of the Scrum boards. The one that we have created for you in Trello as a template has this. So you're going to have a product backlog. And again, you got these nice little stickies with stories on them. And you keep these in priority order, where this is the top is the highest priority. And so you can see that you've got your product backlog hanging out there. And that's for record keeping. That's not what's going on in the actual sprint, but certainly the team could keep that in mind. And as they talk about stuff, they might very well feel like, yeah, we should be changing these priorities in our backlog, which only feeds into the next sprint. It's not going to change the current sprint. And so you're going to have a sprint backlog. And you're going to have your stories. Now, one nice way to operate with stories like this is to actually go ahead and create what are called swim lanes. But in Trello, which we're going to be using, we can't really create these swim lanes, so they don't really exist for the MSci 342. But then what we have are our sprint tasks, and we have them in columns of to do, in progress, and done. Okay. And the idea here, I'll go ahead and remove the swim lanes since you don't really have them, is that one of the things that you do as part of sprint planning is that you have created all sorts of tasks. And so the idea in swim lanes is that these would be the tasks for this story. But there's a lot of tasks. So each story is going to often contain multiple tasks. There will also be a whole bunch of tasks that you will come up with either at the time of sprint planning or as you're working on the sprint of things that need to get done but are not actually tied back to a story. Okay. You could, for example, in sprint 3, discover a bug in the product in a story that you got done in sprint 2 or 1. Well, that story will have been gone from the sprint backlog, will have been said it's been done, but now you've got this bug. So we stick bugs into the sprint to-do list, for example. They've got to get done. When we discover them, we put them there so that we can keep track of them and know that those are tasks that we have to get done. And if we've got lots of bugs, our tasks are going to grow. It's going to slow down our ability to get other work done on the product. And that's actually very natural and very correct. And those bugs would then sit around and stay until we have them done. They're going to stay in the to-do list even for the next sprint and the next sprint. Bugs never expire until they're actually fixed. But you could put in other tasks in here, like schedule meeting with client. That's not related to any story, but it's something the team has to get done. All right. So basically, you're standing in front of the Scrum board. Let's say at the moment no one has any tasks at all. And so someone says, yeah, I'm going to self-assign myself. We know that this needs to get done. I'd like to work on it. That's one of the great advantages of self-assignment is you get to kind of pick some things that you would prefer to do. You are to be able to be a full stack developer on these Scrum teams, be able to work on anything on the project. But that doesn't mean that you can't choose work that you enjoy more. You might sometimes have to trade with other people who also want to do something, but it is one way to customize the work to be a little bit more what you want. So then again, you take it and you put your name on it. So I'm going to put my name, Mark, on that. And all right, that's what I'm going to be working on. That's it for your self-assignment. We do not self-assign ourselves any more than one task. Okay? And when we look at a Scrum board, we will only ever see your name here in the in progress column once. All right? So the team pulls a bunch of things over. Maybe Ann does this. Maybe Alexa does that. We've got a zine working here. We always don't forget Bob. All right, and Bob's working on something there. Anyway, so we see the team members, great, and maybe Bob and Mary have chosen to take on something together. Maybe it's a pair programming task, but nevertheless, it's not like Mary puts her name somewhere else as well. Your name only shows up once. Huge advantage to this, again, is that we're delaying the decision of who does what work until the last responsible moment. This way, we don't have people sitting on tasks, claiming them while they're busy on other tasks. We don't create any dependencies. We know as a team that we're going to take tasks that need to get done, and we can take them off of this to-do list in a way that minimizes the dependencies. Because we know that, this task has to be done before this task, Okay, so we're going to work on the tasks that have to get done first. It also allows more, let's say all of these here were really for this story. This allows more than one person to work on a story at a time for our larger stories and really move that progress along. And so we get this natural load balancing and ability to keep people busy. We don't have as much downtime. This is really a great system. But basically in that meeting, so let's say we've come back and I tell people about my progress on this task, and I say I actually believe I'm done. Well, one of the things that a team has in Scrum is they have a notion of a done criteria. Okay, and so the team is going to have to ask, depending upon what the task is, about the nature of it, to inquire whether or not it's really met the team's notion of being done. So teams have to institute and create their own notion of what does it mean to be done for certain tasks. In particular, though, in MSci 342, in general throughout the course, as we go through these sprints and we learn more about testing, our done criteria for coding tasks, for stories, so overall to say the story is done, the idea is once we get all the tasks over to the done column, the story would be done, but to say the story is really done, we will be increasing our expectations throughout the term about what does that mean as we learn to do more and more automated testing. But anyway, so I would have a discussion and I would explain this, and team members would go, okay, that's good. You already talked with so-and-so and we've got that checked out. We all agree that sounds good. And so then I can go and I can move my task here. And at that point in time, I look and see what's available, and I go, yep, I want to work on this one, and I move it to in progress, and then we go on, and somewhere else in the team tells me maybe Bob and Mary talk about their status on that task, and things move on. Now, it's entirely possible that in between a Monday and a Wednesday, you get your tasks done and you're ready to do another task, because our tasks are designed to be small. What you need to do is you need to be in contact with your group verbally. And so you need to basically talk to them and explain, I've got this done. Are people okay with me saying it's done based upon the following? Get approval. People say it's okay. Then you'll be able on your Trello board to move it to done. You'll be able to self-assign yourself something new. Maybe you had a meeting in the morning on Monday, got it done in the afternoon, and you're ready to take on another task. Take on another task that Monday night, get to work on it on Tuesday, and you're able to report on Wednesday that you got it done. This is the idea. We need a constant flow of small little pieces of work, bite-sized manageable pieces, so that people can even out their work on the project rather than do it in big, heavy work sessions that exhaust them. You do a little bit every day, keep it going, keep it flowing, it's going to work well. Now, one of the really important things about having this visible task system is that we always know what everyone is working on. And this is really important. If I think of a task that needs to be done for the team and it's not on the board, I need to talk to the team and put it on the board before I begin work on it. And so, so let's say I'd gotten something done and the team had approved it. I don't go and just go do another task without getting it on the board, getting it, the people know about it, and putting it into the in progress column and putting my name on it. What happens if when people just start doing tasks without communicating and tracking them? Well, chaos is what happens. You think that you're being really nice to your team by working on stuff that needs to get done. But the problem is someone else might be doing the exact same bad thing where they're doing stuff but not communicating it to the team, and now we're wasting effort. You come back, and you're all happy and proud. I'm going to tell the team that all the stuff I got done, and you find out that someone else on the team has been working on that too. You've now gone and wasted effort. Likewise, you had decided a task was useful and important, but maybe the team actually, in further discussion, could have informed you that no, that's not actually necessary, or we actually think there are higher priority things that need to get done. You're working out of order. Let's talk about that. If we don't keep track of what everyone's doing, we have lots of problems. We don't know the status on the project, and we have the potential for lots of wasted effort. And one of the worst things that happens is when we duplicate effort in this fashion, where we're not keeping track of who's doing what, is that people start to get upset with each other. No one likes to waste their time and effort. And if they find out that you've done something that they also had been doing and this or that, it's a real problem for the team. We want to avoid those sorts of things. Keeping track of your tasks and understanding the status of what's going on adds a huge amount of stability to the team. And as well, it becomes really clear. So let's say I'm a hard worker and I'm doing stuff. My name starts piling up in the duns. And who knows, maybe Bob's been sitting there with Mary working for, the whole sprint on one task. Well, it's pretty clear who's getting things done and who's not getting things done. This gives motivation to Bob and Mary to get in gear. Also, it alerts the team to there's a problem. And so the team can reach out and be like, Bob, Mary, can we help you? How can we help you? What you don't do is you don't take their names off it, or you don't go do the task and come back to the next Scrum meeting and be like, Bob and Mary, I did your task because you were taking too long. No, you're going to talk to them. You're going to offer your help. Everything revolves around tracking of your tasks and this daily Scrum meeting. So much of the team organization happens this way, but it only can happen if you meet on a regular basis and you are exacting about keeping track of all the tasks that the team is working on. If you're going to do something, it's got to have been on the board, and it's got to be part of the tracking system. Okay? All right. Now, what we've talked about in the previous discussion, sprint planning, about a burn down chart. So again, the burn down chart is the total amount of tasks. So you just count all the cards that are to do and in progress. And at the end of the meeting, the stand-up, you update your burn down chart for that day. So it's easy. Count these, add them up. You know how many tasks still remain to be done in the sprint. So that's easy. So you update the burn down chart. All right. Again, we can't change the backlog for the sprint. That's fixed. We're not going to ever add anything to it, but we certainly can add lots of tasks because we might not have realized all the tasks that we had. Again, once all the tasks for a story have made it over to done, what we'll do is we'll check the acceptance criteria on the task. And if all the acceptance criteria have been met, and we can say that we believe that the client should be actually accepting of this story, we'll move it to done. And that means that story is ready to be shown to the client at the next sprint review. Right. Now, it might be possible when we get to that sprint review that the client doesn't accept it as done. That would then cause you to either add that story back to the product backlog or add a new variant of that story back to the product backlog. Okay. One question people do ask is, what happens if I don't get a story done during a sprint? Well, one thing is we don't count any of the points that are assigned to that story to the team's work completed in that sprint for the calculation of the velocity. You have to fully complete the story to count the points in that sprint. At that point in time, you will have then had a sprint review. The client will see the current status of things. You'll be able to understand what the client's priorities are, and you'll know whether or not you should actually keep that story as a high priority story, whether you should, it might be, no, we realize now the client didn't want it anyways. Good, done with it. Or you might realize there's this new variant of it that you need to create. Either way, that generates a new story version that you're going to be putting into the product backlog that then you would estimate the story points fresh and anew. You would, with the idea that this story actually doesn't require as much work because we've gotten a lot of work done on it already. And so you'd actually have it in the next sprint probably with fewer story points attached to it. You don't get to all suddenly have tons of story points available in the next sprint for that story. But you also don't get to count any points for work that's incomplete. So this is a big encouragement to bite off for your sprints a manageable set of work, and I'll really commit to be able to get them done. We want that. We need, especially for the product owner and the business side of things, we need this predictability in our production rate, and that predictability is really, really useful because then we can actually use it, that we understand our velocity, and that we can actually make predictions about how much work will be done by certain dates in the future so that people can really plan the product and what is actually going to happen with it. All right.